We now move on to the key highlight of today's event, the presentation of the key findings from the 12-month National Airport Exit Survey. So this survey was conducted between July 2024 to June 2025. And these insights are shaping how Sri Lanka plans, markets, and invests in tourism. Before we go into officially sharing the key findings from the survey, we would like to share a video by Dr. Poonam on understanding tourism satellite accounting. Dr. Poonam serves as a consultant for the United Nations World Tourism Organization and is currently engaged as the lead consultant in the development of the tourism satellite account for Sri Lanka. Dr. Poonam has supported SLTDA for the questionnaire design, applied TSA methodologies, and guided a survey development to ensure accurate, standardized data collection for evidence-based tourism analysis.
Hello everyone. Tourism, I think, is one of the most dynamic economic sectors for Sri Lanka. And in order to give it a boost so that it grows sustainably and visitors get best experience in the country, it is important to gather the data which is required for policy making. And these data are recommended by UN Tourism, which are tourism expenditure related data. Inbound surveys, outbound surveys, and domestic surveys are some of the most critical surveys which collect data on tourism expenditure incurred by inbound tourists who travel to Sri Lanka from other countries, outbound tourists who travel from Sri Lanka to other countries and incur some expenditure both within Sri Lanka and outside, and domestic tourism expenditure which is incurred by domestic tourists who visit within the country. These surveys have now been conducted in Sri Lanka, and I congratulate Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority that these surveys have been successfully conducted for the country. And these surveys not just provide some details on how the tourism spending happens across the country, but they are also very important inputs to the construction of tourism satellite account, which is a mandate placed by UN Tourism and which gives, it estimates the contribution of tourism to economy while also provide some kind of international comparability among other countries, as all the countries are required to construct the tourism satellite account using the standard methodological framework. So I'm glad that these surveys have been conducted. Today is the release of the findings of inbound tourism survey and outbound survey. Congratulations to the entire team. I think today's event is a great leap to the conduct of to the tourism sector in the country.
We are honored to have received her support to strengthen tourism data and collaboration in the industry. Next, please turn your attention to the screen to discover the key findings and insights shared by the SLTDA from the Airport Exit Survey.
Tourism is changing, travellers are changing, and Sri Lanka is welcoming a whole new generation of explorers. Today, we take you inside the minds, motivations, and journeys of over 10,000 inbound and 5,000 outbound travellers and uncover the stories behind the numbers. Our survey covered 11,731 inbound tourists, representing all major source markets. We used stratified random sampling, giving every traveller an equal chance to participate. Similarly, 5,000 outbound Sri Lankan tourists shared their travel experiences using the random sampling approach. This methodology strengthens the reliability and credibility of the insights you'll see today. Who is visiting Sri Lanka? Most travellers fall between 25 and 34 years old. Why? They are experience-driven, seeking adventure and memorable moments. They have disposable income, often without heavy family responsibilities. And they actively pursue authentic and cultural experiences, not just sightseeing, but stories to share, easy access to travel routes, online booking, and social media makes planning effortless. They're not collecting souvenirs, they're collecting stories. They travel light, spend smart, and go wherever the algorithm inspires them. And Sri Lanka is firmly on their map. These patterns highlight that travel motivations shift with age and life stage, guiding us to tailor experiences and marketing messages accordingly. Official numbers show a near even gender split. But in our survey, more women voice their travel journeys with us. They're leading cultural exploration, wellness travel, and immersive trips, while male travellers dominate adventure and high-activity experiences. Gender also influences activity preferences. Women are leading in cultural, culinary, and nature-based experiences, while men dominate adventure and high-energy activities. Sri Lanka's visitors are thinkers. Graduates, professionals, researchers, travellers who deep dive into culture, heritage, and nature. They're information hunters. They read, compare, research, and curate their own stories. To win them, our digital presence must be richer, deeper, and smarter. Higher education often correlates with higher income and greater ability to travel, strong interest in culture, heritage, and nature. Preference for authentic, responsible tourism experiences. Digital strategy should target these travellers with rich, culturally insightful content to engage them fully. We also discovered distinct trip lead times from last-minute bookings within 30 days to a strong segment planning 6 months or more in advance, revealing both spontaneous travellers and long-term planners shaping our tourism demand. Travel patterns vary by region. Western and Chinese visitors come in groups and families, drawn by safety, authenticity, and long-haul experiences. Indian travellers? They do it all, solo, family, and group, thanks to proximity, affordability, and cultural ties. Each market tells a different story, and each story demands a different strategy. What brings people here? Young adults chase pleasure and adventure. Mid-career professionals fly in for business, Sri Lanka's high-value segment. And at 60 plus, spirituality leads the way. Tourism is life stage dependent, and our strategies must be too. Every market has its signature experiences. Indian travellers dive into culture and spirituality, exploring temples and sacred rituals. Chinese, UK, and German visitors chase wildlife and nature, from Yala's leopards to serene forests. Germans also crave adventure, hiking, trekking, and active exploration. Russian and American tourists favour classic sun and beach holidays, soaking up relaxation and iconic coastal views. Sri Lanka is truly a multi-niche destination, offering something for every type of traveller. Understanding these markets' specific preferences allows us to design experiences that resonate deeply and create memories that last a lifetime. Booking habits reveal a digital revolution. 46% choose OTAs, 36% trust travel agents, and 16% book direct. Younger travellers scroll, compare, and book online. Older travellers still value personal reassurance. It's not one market, it's many worlds. Sigiriya, Gali Fort, and the Temple of the Tooth are timeless. But the tourism map is evolving. Ella has exploded. Yala is booming. Nature and adventure are the new superstars, while traditional cultural hubs face a quiet decline. Sri Lanka is shifting, and it's time to diversify. Tourism remains Sri Lanka's third highest foreign exchange earner. Non-package tourists spend an average of $148.26 USD per person per day. These are the independent explorers, tech-savvy, flexible, and confident in planning their own trip. Their spending is spread across authentic experiences, local food, on-ground travel, and spontaneous activities. Package tourists, however, bring in even more value, spending on average 214.90 USD per person per day. This group pays a premium for convenience, structure, and peace of mind. The UK market leads the way in package spending, reflecting their preference for well-curated, worry-free holidays. Meanwhile, Russian tourists stand out among non-package travellers, spending more when they travel independently. Non-package tourists, especially ages 45, 49 and 65, 69, spend big on flexibility and comfort. Package travellers age 60 plus invest in convenience and safety. Understanding these patterns helps us design smarter products and attract higher value travellers. Outbound travel is dominated by men aged 45 to 54, mid-career, confident and ready to explore. Pilgrimage and leisure lead the way. It's time to design meaningful, dual-purpose itineraries that blend spirituality with soul-restoring relaxation. Of course, every survey has its limits. Time constraints may reduce responses. Non-response or participation bias can skew results. Cultural and language differences may affect understanding. Self-reported data on spending or activities may not always be precise. And, as with all sample surveys, caution is needed when generalizing to the entire tourist population. These insights remain powerful and credible. Sri Lanka is a destination of stories, choices, and unforgettable experiences. From first-time adventure seekers to seasoned repeat travelers, from family groups to solo pilgrims, every journey shapes our tourism future. By understanding who comes, why, and how, we can design smarter experiences, diversify attractions, and build a resilient, sustainable, and prosperous tourism sector.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, were the key highlights from the survey that showed us how powerful data can be. The information that has been gathered through this collaboration isn't just research. It is reshaping the way Sri Lanka plans, invests, and grows in the tourism industry. For those who would like to further see this data and results, SLTDA will be publishing the findings in a report early next year. Until such time, we now open the floor for a few quick questions from the audience. Please raise your hands and our team will bring a microphone to you. I would like to invite the SLTDA research team onto stage.
Good morning. Any questions?
Hello, good morning, everyone. So I'm Rishita. I'm representing Amar Kalambu. So a quick question. So we are seeing a lot of international like travel destinations doing a lot of promotions right now. If you look at, if you turn on your TV right now, any channel would talk about Travel Malaysia, West in Asia, that campaign that they are going, and visit Maldives, and there are a lot of Ramayana trails, everything going on right now. But one key feature that we are not seeing is Sri Lanka being one of the dominant markets in all these sectors, we still lack a proper campaign. What would be the future steps that we are planning to take actually to promote this destination?
Thank you for the question. So I'm actually representing SLTDA, but there's a separate arm related to promotions. So they have planned, and also they are doing their traditional marketing channels, for example, trade shows, then media campaigns, influencer-related campaigns they're currently doing. But we are planning our global campaign, so more will be disclosed soon about the campaign and what are the activities planned.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up question, actually based on the statistics that you have provided. So one thing that we noticed as a new property who has been only 1 year in this industry, so it's like the numbers are reflecting similar. So it says 46% OTA penetration. So this hotel specifically has 48% OTA penetration, and also that gives 60% revenue penetration. Where when the occupancy is about 46 absorption, we get more revenue through OTA bookers. So one of the key things, this is apart from this hotel also, what I've noticed, I consult a lot of independent trainings to smaller hotels in remote areas. So what I've seen is the data that we are seeing as prominent hotels and with chains with bigger revenue analytical tools, those data is not going to those areas. What are the steps that you are planning to take ahead actually to get this data to that smaller hotels and also to make them available in the future?
So at the moment, when you renew the license of SLTDA, there is a research submission requirement. So part of that, we collect that data. So earlier, we only focused on larger properties. Now we have gone down, to guest houses and that level as well. So we are having a wider coverage. So you'll see this data coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I represent Media Daily News. Minister and the chairman both emphasized or rather highlighted about the wrong data that you have been maintained about the average spend of tourism. So now actually what is the exact figure now at this moment?
No, it's not wrong data. What they were referring is that earlier, the way that we calculated was based on the surveys we had previously. Now, this year and last couple of years, we have got the support of UNWTO to enhance and improve the surveys. So that's why this difference is there. And also, predominantly because of our currency being depreciated and the travel patterns have changed, as they mentioned, has contributed to this figure. So that is the reason that you see. It's not like a wrong way of collecting, but we've been conducting this for many years. It's just that we developed the surveys in line with UNW tourism.
Yes. Now, what is your expected with the 3 million tourist arrivals you're hoping to achieve? What is the expected figure for that matter?
You mean the revenue? Or?
Revenue. Total and per tourist.
For this year, we target 3.3 billion USD if we reach the target.
Yeah, in case of, in terms of per tourist rate? Spending, yeah.
So it will remain as 148
Yeah.
because this so we'll be conducting this annually or every 2 years or something. So we might see some difference, but it will be around this region.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dhananath. Just wanted to understand one thing on the methodology. What was the definition of the tourist? Whether, because there was a question, whether, for an example, because of the migration that took place, some of the Sri Lankans, maybe foreign citizens, they may be also visiting Sri Lanka, and whether they were falling under tourism category because they may no longer actually Sri Lankan citizens. So that is also categorized as tourists. That's number one. And also, could you give an indication on the average stay of a tourist? From the little that I understand, that data was collected from the immigration because on the passport, in and out, you can collect it easily. But was there an indication, because when you count the number of days whether actually they stayed in a hotel or a setup approved by the tourism development authority, or whether it's like a homestay or like staying at a friend's place, that data has been captured, and is there any indication on the data?
Thank you, Dana. So basically, when you are calculating, we are taking overnight stays. So that's the UNWTO definition. For harmonizing data across the globe, they have these definitions, and we follow because being a member, we follow their guideline, we won't deviate. To answer your second question, that is, these Sri Lankans are counted if they are been residing and they are the citizens of other countries. Of course, they are tourists when they come here. So they also spend the same way. Obviously, they might stay with their relatives, but most of them, when they come here, if they don't have relatives, they will stay in hotels, and they will spend the same or more sometimes, right? So we look at the net economic contribution to the economy, so we can consider them as tourists.
Actually, thank you very much. Actually, there is around 17% number of visa categories into the Sri Lanka. We are taking by the electronic travel authorization. It means tourist visa. Actually, you asked that the duration stays we are calculating for the difference between the departing date and the arrival date. The actual for the last 12 months, last 11 months, average duration is 8.5. But in the most of like the Indian tour is like around 4.9. We are taking the actual duration of stay that is taken by the immigration data.
Okay, very good morning. I am taking this opportunity to thank and congratulate SLTDA because it is a very difficult task conducting a representative sample survey airport while in busy schedule of the tourists, especially outbound, inbound tourists, to get data at the airport about expenditure and congratulate and actually real contribution to the economy we need to measure through this data, and we are working closely because I am representing Department of Census and Statistics. We compile GDP using some data collected from BOP statistics and the data related to tourism within the country. I think using this data, we can improve our calculations because we see SATDA, they take the leading role to prepare this data, timely data, because in compilation GDP, we need to collect updated information quarterly and annually. I think now a lot of improvements there in the data collection systems, and we are closely working with the SLTDA to improve our GDP compilations and to compile tourism satellite accounts. For the first time, we compiled it for 2018, and now we are working to have our domestic tourism survey, and once it is completed, it will be possible to have our next tourism satellite accounts for the recent year. And again, thank you for SLTDA and for the support you are giving us to have our domestic surveys on time. And I congratulate again for your hard work, and thank you.
Thank you.
Did you ask any questions from the people who are traveling, coming on the off-season period to see why they came, so that you can maybe structure promotional campaigns based on the reasons that they came off-season and get more of them?
Can you repeat the question?
No, whether you asked any questions on why people came on the off-season, so that you will know why the tourists who came on the off-season, why they came, so that you can maybe structure, promote more off-season tourism.
Yes, all the tourists were interviewed throughout a year, so we covered both season and off-season. So they were asked about their purpose, yes.
So what did you find out? Do you know, like, why they didn't come in the peak season, why they came off? Is there any?
So if you look at certain times, now off-season, if you take the East Coast, when it is off-season here, you have the season there, right? That is one reason. And then you have Middle Eastern travelers who are traveling during that time because it's warm there, and also the expats. So like that, there are travel patterns because of different reasons that they travel during off-season.
And also we have done analysis for the trend of first 3 months and the last 3 months of this year. We have found that because of the some summer vacations and some air ticketing issues, some tourists are coming for that. It's like in the winter season, and it's like consider the trend of last 3 months. The United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, like the new markets, and so like Belgium, new markets now are improving. So that's one also good future for our Sri Lankan tourism industry. Thank you.
I am Sujita from Central Bank. Based on the SLTDA data, Central Bank is the authority releasing the data for tourism earnings. So usually we get a lot of queries from media and several other investors also saying whether we are overestimating the tourism earnings for Sri Lanka. Maybe I'm happy to see that some more reflective data has now come and we can defend this data. And one more question I have, I saw that in your key findings, you say that 70% of the travelers are graduates or more. I don't know, I assume that it's a voluntary survey. So it's natural for educated people to take these surveys seriously, get engaged with surveys. So I don't know whether there is any biasness in this finding.
Could be to a certain level, but ultimately, I mean, it is a sample survey, and we have to, because most of them, they will fill the first part of the survey, because we actually did more surveys than this, but they will not complete the rest certain areas, so they are considered as incomplete. So yeah, obviously there might be certain truth to that, but we try to be more realistic as possible.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ranuka, the CEO of Aditya Ayurveda. So then actually the MDF is helping us a lot to penetrate to a market. But my question is, I think you have mentioned that in your findings, you found that a lot of travelers are coming back to Sri Lanka. So what are, I don't know whether this is addressed in your research or not. What are the barriers that preventing their coming back to Sri Lanka?
We can find that information, not barriers per se, but there might be certain hindrances. But that's not very much highlighted through the surveys, though.
Udana.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Miguel. I was going to ask the question similar to the previous one. So, mentioned 18% repeat visitors, right? Regional comparisons, Thailand's 33%, Bali's 28%. So we're on the lower side of that. So my question would be, perhaps this has to do with what you could refer to as loyalty infrastructure, narratives and experiences that beget repeat visitors. So I would encourage this to inform product development at the level of things like, for instance, obviously trails and things like festivals and things like that, which, so that we can predictably have them in place and that people would, be coming back every year. That would increase that segment. Udana, two questions. One is, in your sample set, do you have given a weighted average to the different markets? That's first question. Second question is, how do you assess, or what is the question you ask to get the revenue? Like, do you ask a tourist at the lounge, how much did you spend on your holiday? Or is there any more accurate question that you put to them to extract that information?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, a simple answer is for the first question, yes, there's a weighted average. So other thing is when it comes to expenditure, there's a lot of questions, not one. So actually we can publish these questionnaires online. So others can also, I mean, like a blank questionnaires, so that the public and the industry will know how we collect this data and the questionnaire structure, because this was reviewed. The previous questionnaire was reviewed by the UNWTO consultant, Dr. Poonam, and it is in line with the global standard. So because this is part of the satellite accounting questionnaires, so survey, sorry. So therefore, it is in line with the standards. So when we collect expenditure, we have a number of questions, and that's how we have ultimately come up with the figures. Thank you.
To add to something to that answer, we covered 51 countries. The sampling methodology was the stratified sampling method. So in obtaining expenditure-related data, we asked each question on transport, food and beverage, accommodation. We got them to answer all these questions on their expenditure. So that's how we came to the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the fantastic initiative taken. Just two questions. I think the first is that it's good if all the data is properly shared, because right now we are getting just bits and pieces which can lead to a lot of confusion in the market, which is going to have a lot of detrimental effect. I think a proper presentation would really help the whole industry. And number two, sir, is how many people are traveling on Sri Lankan Airlines?
Sri Lankan Airlines, I think, as per our analysis, around 30%. We can share that data, actual data. For the last 11 months, we have the average like around 30% traveling by the Sri Lankan Airlines. Other major line airlines is the Emirates and the Qatar Airways. Most travelers from the India and UK and the Australia. They are bringing the remote, because there is some direct airlines from the Australia and also the UK. So if we develop to the direct airlines to the, this is because industry people are here. So if we develop the direct airline from to the Sri Lanka to the Moscow or something, we can increase the Russian tourists also. That because as per our analysis, we can see that if there is some direct airlines from Sri Lanka, that all airlines are full.
Thank you.
Thank you, research team, for joining us on stage. Next up, we will hear from the team behind MDF's work in driving data-led transformation in Sri Lanka's tourism sector. They will walk us through the findings from the survey that are shaping MDF's tourism strategy. Please welcome Ms. Nimesha Palyagura, Sector Coordinator for Tourism, followed by Ms. Nipuni Duvivatta, Business Advisor, and Ms. Isuri Munasinghe, Research Impact Measurement and Inclusion Coordinator from MDF.
A very good morning, everyone. So I will be taking you through what MDF does and what we do here for the tourism industry. So the MDF is a multi-country donor fund. We operate in Sri Lanka. We also operate in the Indo-Pacific region. In Sri Lanka, we operate in two sectors, which is tourism and in agriculture. In agriculture, we work heavily in agri-inputs, and we also work in coffee. In terms of tourism, our main strategy is sustainable tourism, and definitely data is a key part to it. Starting with the public sector in the tourism industry in Sri Lanka, we work closely with the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. We've supported them with a 5-year research roadmap, which my colleague Nipuni will take you through in a couple of slides, and of course the airport exit survey and TSA. In terms of the private sector, we mainly work with hotels, travel agents, and with sustainable service providers to make the industry more sustainable. So going back to sustainable tourism, what it really means to us, we use a lot of data in terms of energy consumptions, in terms of emission, understanding GHG emissions, in understanding water emissions, energy audits, waste audits, and so on and so forth. So what we do with this data is we support players to get this data and then break it down and implement solutions in order to make their properties more sustainable in terms of operational costs, in terms of product development, and also in terms of inclusive tourism. So for instance, when it comes to women in tourism, that's a key area we work in. We would like to encourage more women to join the trade. With a couple of researches that we've done so far, only 10% of the women, or less than 10% of the women, are currently in the workforce. So we would encourage them to come and work in the industry. Wellness is a key area of interest because the wellness tourists stays for longer and they spend more. So with certain partners, we try to encourage different wellness markets, for example, Japan and the Middle East. Just in terms of the numbers, we've so far trained around 200 individuals in sustainable tourism. It's important to note that these have not just been one-off trainings. These have been part of our projects where we have curated sustainable solutions to these players, and as a result, train them to encourage new culture, more sustainable innovations within their organization. In terms of inclusive tourism, we've trained around 160 individuals, out of which about 50% are women, and we've been able to really have the middle management understand the importance of women being in trade and support them with their career development. In terms of the number of hotels we've touched so far in terms of sustainable tourism, it's around 55 hotels. And we're also happy to say that beyond these hotels and beyond the tour operators we work with, the value chain is a key aspect to us. So we try to see how we can bring in local sourcing and local experience development into the value chain so that the income redistributes. So we've worked with about 38 SMEs in terms of the value chain approach. With that, I would like to pass on to Nipuni, who will take us through our SLTDA intervention.
Thank you, Nimesha. Let's rewind to 2015. Tourism in Sri Lanka was thriving. Investments were pouring in. The new hotels were opening up. And the world has started to explore our island. During the middle of this growth, the Australian government, through MDF, has identified an opportunity. They wanted to support the Sri Lanka tourism to shape the future of Sri Lanka tourism industry through evidence, through insights that could guide into smart, evidence-based tourism strategy. Luckily, SLTDA has also shared the same vision with us. They were also interested in data, and that's where our story begins. So fast forward into 2019, our partnership reached a milestone. MDF and SLTDA, we have entered into our first MOU. This MOU was just not paperwork. It was commitment for a shared future. Through this MOU, we have done a lot. We have together introduced a 5-year research roadmap for Sri Lanka tourism. This whole partnership is just about the action. Together, we strengthen the SLTDA's research team's data and analytical capacities. We have introduced the global best practices, and also we have connected them with the international expertise on research methodologies. At the same time, we have introduced tools like airport exit surveys, which could guide Sri Lanka tourism to have real-time traveler insights. So all these initiatives were not just projects. These were the building blocks that will lead Sri Lanka tourism to have a strong ecosystem in the future. So actually the MDF and Australian government and also SLTDA, we had a focus to strengthen the data systems to deliver timely insights. We now have a skilled research team at SLTDA capable of having proper methodologies, design the surveys, and reporting data effectively. And above all, now we have a very comprehensive and strong data set which can be used by you all, that is both the government and the private sector stakeholders. You all can use this data to guide into smart investments, promote investments in Sri Lanka, to develop new products, and at the same time, to have targeted marketing and promotional campaigns. Moving to the airport exit survey. So this airport exit survey, in order to improve our credibility and to meet the global and the international standards, what we have done is we have partnered with a third-party independent research entity, that is IPED. And with IPED, we have ran this survey for a period of 1 year, from July 2025 to July 2024 to June 2025. This is just to capture the seasonal variations and the traveler trends throughout the year. So the target population for this survey was the international departing visitors. And we have conducted this survey in the departure terminals of Bandaranaike International Airport. We were able to capture 11,000 plus inbound tourists and 5,000 plus outbound tourists for that. With the team of our enumerators, we were using 8 different languages to ensure the inclusivity and accuracy of the data that we have captured. So right now, as Dr. Poonam correctly said, we have just not captured the numbers. We have a comprehensive and strong data set that can guide the future of Sri Lanka tourism, and most importantly, to have evidence-based tourism policy and also tourism planning in Sri Lanka. Next, my colleague Isuri will take you through some insights that we have taken and derived from this strong data set. Isuri, over to you.
Thank you, Nipuni. Thank you for your patience and thank you for waiting here and listening to everything that we have to say. But I will very quickly take you through some findings that we at MDF, our research team, has found that would help you understand how to look at this data. End of the day, what we want is 2 objectives. We want to grow the tourism industry, but we want it to grow in a way that is responsible, that is taking into account that we are working with limited resources. We are a small country of 22 million people after all. And how do we do that in a way that doesn't deplete our resources, but also brings income that is sustainable to the country? So the way we looked at this data first is, and this is not news to the industry, we mapped out where the tourists went for each of the respondents, which parts of the country. So there were a list of locations provided in this survey, and the tourists were asked of these locations, which locations did you go to? On average, each traveler had gone to 7 locations. 5 of the 7 were common or similar to about 40% of the total visits that were counted in this survey. So that's really saying, I mean, that's visualized in this map, which is the darker colored areas are where most of the travelers are going to. So there's really deep concentration in certain locations, and the travelers are not spreading around the country. So when we're thinking of going beyond 2.5 million or 3 million arrivals, when we're thinking of more than 3.5 billion rupees, dollars in earnings, where's that going to come from? If our most key attractions have tapped their capacity, where's that extra money going to come from? So this is a way that we thought we should look at the data, which is now per day spending is a very valid and interesting metric and has its purpose, which is to calculate GDP, TSA numbers, and getting that statistics that comes for data. But if you want to look at the data to strategize, to understand where your income is going to come from, then perhaps we need to look at every visitor coming to Sri Lanka for the duration of the stay, how much do they spend? I think that gives us more interesting insight than looking at just the per day spending. So now I broke the data into 3 lots. One is individuals who come free and independent traveling, that is not through package, and just individuals, not families or groups, what their average spend looks like. And then the group category, or the package category, we broke it into 2. To demarcate the 2 definitions, we found, okay, how much fits into a Rosa bus? About 15 people maybe. So 15 and under, we categorized as small, and 15 and up to 50, we categorized as large groups. And what we found was that the free and independent travelers, irrespective of their purpose, whether it's business or leisure or medical, whichever, stay twice as long as the average and spend twice as much purely because they stay longer. Similarly, with the smaller group travelers, they too spend twice as much and stay slightly longer. And actually, if you look at the duration data, there's a lot more variation in the smaller group. It can be anywhere as 11, 10, or as much as 24, 25, 30. So there is a lot of diversity that can be tapped into in smaller group travel. So then we looked at, okay, how far ahead do these people plan? So there has to be difference in planning, difference in research, difference in how far ahead you can hook these travelers depending on their duration. And there seems to be an interesting correlation, which is the planning starts much ahead if you're going to stay longer. So that needs to be taken into consideration into your promotion. And also, we find that we probably need to do year-round campaign, not running up to the season, but year-round if we are to really hook our travelers properly. And touching on the longer stay travelers. Then, I'm not too sure if it's very clear, but we also asked in this survey, right, tell us what were your 3 favorite, top 3 attractions that you visited. Now, Sri Lanka is not without variety of experiences. We have a lot. It's not just the beach, it's not just the wildlife. We have adventure, we have a vast variety of experiences touching different tastes. But perhaps there is a lack of promotion that is activity specific. Of course, beach, wildlife, and sightseeing came as a top 3 for quite a few. But there is a difference in what was caught as their favorite 3 between the smaller group traveler and the larger group traveler. So there was quite a lot of very specific niche activities that were caught as favorite. If you look water sports, bird watching, very specific activities that they caught as the most favorite. And so maybe something to think of is not that group travel is dead, but perhaps thematic, niche experiences-based group travel, smaller sized, longer stay, is perhaps where our growth can come from. Then someone in the audience asked about season and off-season. We did look at this data. So I was hoping, when I sent this to the design team, I was hoping to see vastly different maps. But unfortunately, it's not. So while Sri Lanka doesn't have seasonality, our main source markets do. And within Sri Lanka, we have seasonality. So when the down-south seas are rough in the middle of the year, but if our promotion and largely content out there is on our down-south beaches, but they get there in the middle of the year and find out, oh, wait, I can't get into the beach. That's not proper marketing. So what curated experiences, curated tours can we create depending on the time of the year? And can we perhaps take few more people, and in the off-season, outside of these dark areas? And that perhaps goes to that gentleman's question, is then looking at repeat visitors, experiences that bring people back. And at MDF, this brought us to wellness. Rain or shine, this will work. People will come for wellness. So we wanted to understand how to look at the wellness data. And this brought us the most interesting insight from this research, which is when you actually filter out the respondents that said Ayurveda was their top attraction, 90% of them did not identify themselves as tourists in their purpose of visit. They identified themselves as arriving for medical purposes. So that uncovers a whole other set of information you need to know on how to promote to these travelers. Not travelers, they're coming for medical purposes. They're staying an average of 16 days, but if you speak to our partners in the wellness industry, some of them stay as far as months. They extend their stay. And they don't come for experience per se, they come for something called a treatment. So it's not just that one-off booking a spa date, it's an entire course of treatments. They stay longer, they spend 3 times as much as the average traveler, and they have a lot of value to be brought. And interestingly, if you look at the countries, and this is no surprise either, 50% of this sample came from either Germany or Austria, but there were new and emerging markets like Japan, GCC, far more culturally conservative markets where we can attract these travelers from. So what does that mean for the products that we have to cater? How do we market to these categories? How do we market to these markets? So there is a lot of untapped potential in expanding the source market and really making Sri Lanka a wellness destination. So you did see in the data that a significant amount of the travelers did say that they would love to come to Sri Lanka, they loved the hospitality, the experience was very hospitable, and that goes without saying, it's very evident in the data. But if we are to tap into, say, higher value markets, higher value segments, then it is worth also looking at where we can improve. Now, one thing, a few responses that came up quite frequently in the survey was, of course, hospitality is great, beautiful country, beautiful scenery, so much diversity, all that, but also plastic pollution. Quite a few responses said, don't let tourism ruin your wildlife, don't let tourism ruin your environment. So this gives an indication. We are starting to see travelers who are very conscious of the environment. They don't want to see our environment being ruined at the cost of an industry. So that is something we need to keep in mind of when we are attracting our travelers and when we bring travelers to the country. There was also some mention of, but very few, I must say, this is very, very scanty amount of responses, but safety and security was also another concern brought in. But overall, if you are to get your hands on this data, this is perhaps different ways you can slice and dice to really understand how you can build your strategy around it. So the main conclusions we got from this is, if we have, and you saw this in the SLTDA presentation earlier, close to 60% of arrivals are women. So what does that mean when, and this is a research that we published last year at an event where we found that less than 10% of the workers in the industry are women. But if 60% of our arrivals are women, then we have a bit of an imbalance there, and that's something to consider as well. And building more women-centric experiences, building women entrepreneurs in tourism to really make the most of the value that this market that we've clearly tapped into, but to continue to attract them. Next thing is sustainable tourism. Now, this can get thrown around a little like a nice, happy, nice to have word, but really it's starting to be a business imperative. And all what we've seen is telling us is we have a regulation that's kicking in one of our main source markets. 1/5 of our arrivals are from the EU, and the EU regulations on green tourism are starting to kick in, which means that properties that are connected to DMCs in the EU are going to start asking for sustainable certification. And part of our work has been helping smaller to medium scale properties embark on this journey, finding their business operations and fine-tuning in and meeting some of these regulations. But it's also walking the talk and making sure that we have a product that is sustainable and doesn't just look sustainable, where we actually protect our environment so there is something left for future tourists to come to, but also growing it in a way that doesn't damage the environment as well. But it's becoming not a nice to have anymore, but a business imperative, because 1/5 of our market is going to start asking for certification along this line. So yeah, overall, looking forward, if you are to increase travelers, look at off-season travel. Look at diversifying experiences and not just going with one size fits all that we've already had. And let's start focus on long stay. Let's focus on total spend of a tourist in country and not just per day spending, so that we're more competitive and we're more sustainable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nimesha, Nipuni, and Isuri for those insightful reflections. Before we move on to the most exciting activity for the day, which is the panel discussion, we would now like to take a group photograph with some of our key stakeholders. I would like to invite Honourable Minister Ruwan Ranasinghe, High Commissioner His Excellency Matthew Duckworth, Mr. Buddhika Hewawasam, Mr. Udana Wickramasinghe, Mr. Nazir, and MDF team onto the stage. We now move on to our panel discussion for the morning. The title is Turning Data into Direction, Shaping Tourism Together. This session will bring together government, industry leaders to explore how data can bridge gaps between policy and practice. And it will also discuss how collaboration can unlock new opportunities for sustainable tourism and growth. In the interest of time, if you have any questions, please scan the QR code on the screen, and please also find the QR that is available in your event briefs in the folder, which will be able to share your questions online. Your questions will be answered throughout the discussion by our moderator. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Dhananath Fernando, CEO of Advocata Institute. Joining Mr. Dhananath on the panel will be His Excellency Honourable Professor Minister Ruwan Ranasinghe, Deputy Minister of Tourism, Mr. Dilip Udadeniya, Chairman of the National Tourism Committee and Senior Vice President of the Global Alliance and Partnerships of John Keells Group, Mr. Nishad Wijetunga, Managing Director at Wayfares Limited and also the past President of Slyto, and Ms. Dinushka Chandrasena, Editor of Travel Talk Asia and Director PR of SCAL Asia Board. Over to you, Mr. Dhananath.
hospitality. Okay, now it's much better. Everyone spoke about hospitality, and good morning to all of you. And if you go outside, it's pouring. And as a joke, I say Sri Lankans are very hospitable, even the rain. Everywhere you go, even the rain follows you. It's that hospitable. But still, it's beautiful. And even the other countries have multiple seasons. We have two, but it's still enough to attract tourists. With that note, just a quick alert that I know the industry has a lot of questions about the tourism campaign, on spending and everything, but I just wanted to make sure that in this panel discussion, my questions are more focused on how we can collaborate this data and taking it forward, because I think all of us are here because we love the industry and we wanted to make it better and take it to the next step. And congratulations to SLTDA, because as the SLTDA chairman mentioned, they had the courage to really look at the data and really revise it whenever which is needed and to take it forward from there. So in that spirit, we will be continuing the question. But if you have any questions, of course, you are welcome. There's a QR code. You can scan it and send the question so I can get your support to moderate the discussion. And I am happy to pass those questions to our esteemed panelists. I would like to start the conversation pivoting to the lady in our discussion, because as you have seen, in terms of the tourism arrivals, it's about 60% is female. Of course, our panel really doesn't reflect that percentage. But Dinushka, I would like to start from you, that you have seen many public-private data collaborations and how this can be effectively used. In your experience in other markets, how this can be done better, or do you feel that the Sri Lankan Tourism Development Authority from this new survey, what further measures that we have to take, or how we have to look at on an overall basis on taking this initiative to the next stage?
Thank you, Dana. Thank you. Firstly, congratulations to Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority and MDF for the support in bringing this data to life. A little bit that I can touch on in terms of the data and in terms of my role, I'm sure my colleagues from the media would agree with me on this, is that data sharing is vital. But also having the data from both the public sector and the private sector is where we would get our information, and it would be on a more reliable level. For example, at the moment today, we have excellent data from SLTDA, but how much does that correlate with the data and information that the private sector has? So stakeholders have, I'm sure Dilip would agree with me, they have their own methods of acquiring data, whether it's hospitality or DMCs, they have a way of getting the data. How is this data correlating with SLTDA? So for example, in the past, many, many years ago, if you would remember, Dilip, we would come to, at that time, Sri Lanka Tourist Board and meet with you and the directors of the different markets and ask how the markets are faring. We would also go to the private sector or the stakeholders, and we would meet them in the individual offices and ask them how the hotel sector is doing. But today, with the way that information has grown, leaps and bounds, everything is data-centric. And it should be available at our fingertips. So a centralized data hub, which would probably be housed at Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, must have both private sector data as well to complement whatever the government has already got in terms of data. So data is key, but it's also important that it's both stakeholder-driven and government-driven, not just one platform.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dinushka. Next, I would like to move to you, Honorable Ranasinghe. Now, President in his budget speech and multiple times mentioned on a concept of country branding. And now we are getting the data and revise the, pretty much, we are moving to a global standard with the tourism satellite accounting system. And what is the conversation at the government level on capturing the data also at the regional level? Because we saw what MDF presented on a map what are the most attractive districts or locations, season and as well as off season. Is there any linkage between the government digitization and getting that all data connected? Because that's what Dinushka also mentioned on collaborating the data, and that I would say that authority or that accessibility is mainly with the government. I would like to know what is the internal conversation within the ministry and as a government strategy on getting, because our theme is also from data to decision making. What is the conversation at the data level at the ministry?
Yes, Dhananath, thank you very much, MDF and the SLD team once again. Now this actually, to be clear, is a survey that we have done at a point of time, a comprehensive one, so that we can get some information to run and manage the industry and take some decisions. But coming back to your question, to establish or transform this traditional, run focused tourism industry into really an information-driven, data-driven industry, I think there is a long way to go. So in that sense, this is why our government, we are very much, focused on digitizing many industries, many areas in the economy, including our revenue collection, all so and so forth, for which we are working very hard on these days. So tourism is also something that we need to do on this, and in fact, so next year, third quarter, we are planning to issue the digital ID for the citizens. We are also have started a discussion to issue a temporary ID for the tourists at the airport so that we can trace, and Wi-Fi tracing and so much more. But coming back to your question, you asked about the regional level data collection. At the moment, almost I would say no, but there are certain, provincial tourism agencies like provincial ministries or authorities. They are collecting, also doing similar surveys, like small scale, similar surveys, so that they can get some understanding about how many rooms, how many visitors and things. But there is no strongly linked system that is established with SLTD or our central ministry to collect data from the regional level also to take such decisions. This is why, as I mentioned, this one is, at a time, a survey, a comprehensive one, which also has focused on particularly the data collection tool on TSA, tourism satellite accounts, which we can initiate that also. But in the long run, we are focusing on digitizing and linking as immigration database and hotel systems that we have together, so that even tracing Wi-Fi of the visitors through this ID that we are going to issue for visitors. So with all these things, we are planning to transform this into a data-driven industry.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, a very quick follow-up question. Is there a conversation on taking this survey forward? Because unless you track the data on a regular basis, sometimes even the initial survey may not be meaningful because you really cannot see the trends. How is the support? Have you already spoken to the development partners? Any indication on that, so the industry stakeholders have some level of assurance that the data will come on the same, pretty much the fields, and what else that they can also have many ideas and suggestions how they can make it better. Any indication on that, how you plan to continue this?
Yeah, for sure we must. We have to continue this data collection frequently, so that we have the up-to-date, data and information for decision making, as it was discussed here about this per tourist per day expenditure. So we are in discussion continuously with our partners, development, other bodies who are assisting us. Whatsoever, it's at policy level, it's a must that we need to continue this.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to move to Nishad. Nishad, how is this data being used by stakeholders like yours? And at the same time, is there a platform that, because you probably also capture a lot of data, for an example, on transport, the preferences of the groups, which is quite micro at the same time, which probably may not be able to capture at an exit survey or a departure survey at the airport. Since you also operate probably in multiple markets, is there a way that we can also capture that data so we can derive with better insights, which also Dinushka earlier mentioned? And how do you plan to use this data? And probably is there a way that in your stakeholder category, this can be connected, collaborated, and create better insights?
Yeah, thanks, Dharnath, and congratulations to SLTDA, and thank you, MDF, for supporting this survey. It was actually long outstanding, so the insights are really great. As a DMC or as a DMC, we base our main base is like providing, the word I hate to use, but package holidays. But what we have seen over the last probably 10 years is this whole thing evolving into people looking for more experiential holidays and things like that, which is what you all have also captured now. And we, in the private sector through Slido, we have also, one of the areas that we focus on is collecting information, collecting data to see which way we are going, what we have to do to develop. And this is one of the things that we have kept harping on for the longest time, that we needed to have a proper concentrated marketing campaign with things like supporting of foreign tour operators, which we have done in the past, which has been very, very successful. Because end of the day, you're working, you're spending your money on a very focused, targeted market. And we have seen those results in the past, where you encourage foreign tour operators who actually work with the DMCs in Sri Lanka, and those are those that the 219 category that you saw was actually those package holiday spenders. And when you looked at the country-wise data, I think the UK came in as the second largest next to India. Now, UK average stay is probably minimum 10 days, 10 to 14 days. And when you have that kind of clientele who prefer to travel on a package holiday, whether it's as part of a group or whether it's individually, I mean, even individually or as families, they travel, they make their arrangements ahead, they work. So obviously they work with either foreign tour operator and a DMC, but now we find more and more clients reaching out to local DMCs directly, which means, I mean, obviously they get a financial benefit by not paying a third party in their home country, but working directly, and that is because they prefer planned travel, and that is also something that came out. So, but to develop that segment of the market, we definitely need to have proper marketing campaigns targeted at those markets. We have continuously asked for this. We have continuously lobbied for to work with tour operators overseas so that you can bring in that segment. Obviously, I don't know this 170 odd or 180 odd per day spend has been talked about and dismissed to some extent, but where somehow that figure did come out and it was reflected in central bank figures. So you can't actually kind of diss it or say it's not acceptable. So the reality that has come out now from where I see it is, I'm not saying this because I'm a DMC or whatever, but it's very clear that it's those clients who come as part of a organized to a holiday who would be spending the higher amounts. I did some calculations before I came, just trying to figure out if somebody comes through a DMC and based on the package prices that we have given our tour operators overseas, I mean the average spend for an average kind of tourist like who will be staying in 3 to 4 star hotels is definitely above $180, $190 a day, ranging up to about $250. If you take the clients who come through us booking boutique hotels and that kind of accommodation, there are quite a number. And then I don't know whether they were captured in your survey, but that kind of clientele would be spending easily $300 to $400 per night, per person, just on their accommodation. And that is usually only breakfast included. So when they eat out and when they go out, they are contributing to the wider circle of stakeholders who are smaller. And these people, though they may spend $300, $400, $500 or $1,000 and stay in a very high-end property, but they are also looking for experiences. So they would actually venture out, they would eat in smaller restaurants, in smaller places, just to get that experience. So again, we have to target that market because, you can clearly see, we can talk about fluctuation of exchange rates and all of that, but we had the similar number of tourists that arrived in 2018. We had a $4.5 billion US turnover, whereas we are targeting 3.3 billion this year. So clearly there is a big drop, and you can see that in the per tourist spend also. So I would say we are also hoping to embark on a research we had a research that was done in 2020 based on the 2018 figures. It was done by EY. Hopefully we are talking to EY right now, and we want to do something based on the 25 figures, so then we can understand better what it is, which way we are going. So yeah, so if we want to increase this spend and concentrate on those high-end markets, marketing has to be focused, targeted marketing has to be done. I'm sure this information will help in planning something, but I think the more we delay, the more problems we have, because the $148 market is basically based on social media promotion, and that is just organic, and you can see it going viral. And honestly, I don't agree with some of those things that come up where influencers are talking about how they spent 1,000 rupees on all 3 meals for the day, and is that the kind of thing we need to attract? That is what we need to look into. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishad. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to move to Dilip. Dilip, you have been in multiple committees on national branding, nation branding, tourism. While you look very young, you have been in this game for a long time. Just wanted to understand whether this new data and moving to the tourism satellite accounting system, how would that impact on the nation branding, especially at a national level, at the same time for a conglomerate like you represent in the Cinnamon Group? And also, does it really reflect, or with your experience, are we doing the right thing, or is there a composite way of calculating it? For an example, even if you look at the spending, it may be differ from the room category, it's a deluxe room or a premier deluxe or whatever the category, or at the same time on the way that you spend, whether it's spent on laundry or on restaurants, or how does it captured, or is there a composite way that pretty much you have to capture it with your global experience, and how does it impact the positioning of tourism product for Sri Lanka? Could you kindly weigh in here, because I think it's an evolving process as far as I understand, but you know it better than most of us do. So over to you, Dilip.
Thank you, and congratulations again for Sri Lanka Tourism as well as the MDF to doing this. I think after 7 years, this whole much needed airport exit survey has been completed, so kudos to everyone involved. I know it's not easy to get these things done, and a lot of red tape, and I know Dan and the team had multiple meetings, so well done. So there are 2 parts to the question. The first one is that you are talking about the nation branding. It's very important that we understand this very clearly. The nation branding is nothing to do with tourism marketing. I'll give you one example. Incredible India, how long that they have been using this? For 30 years or more than that. If I ask a question, just because of Incredible India, have you changed the way you think about India? The answer is no. Incredible India is tourism campaign to bring the numbers in. The nation branding is about a reputation of a country. So reputation of a country is what you earn, not what you buy through media. It takes 10 to 15 years for a country to change its image through consistent policy. It's a policy of a country that creates the reputation of a country. It's how good you are the country, the governance system, other factors like tourism, sports, export with the country of origin, the people of the country, public diplomacy, all this can contribute. But that's a very strategic role which the governments have now established and do it very planned manner through the policies of the country. For example, the Clean Sri Lanka policy can be a great way to enter the nation branding process. Now what happens is the nation brand is established, then the tourism people will find it easier to market it. Today, if tourism Sri Lanka spend $100 and the Malaysian tourism spend the same $100 on same channels, the ROI will be 26% more to Malaysia than Sri Lanka. The reason is that Malaysia has a better country image than Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka country image in all indexes around 70, 73, and Malaysia is around in their 30 and between 30 to 35. So this is where the difference is. We can't build a nation branding through a campaign. That has to be very clearly understood from all of us. So the correct terminology to use is destination branding, not nation branding. Nation branding is what the whole nation established in the minds of the people in other places. You may go to China, but you may not accept, or the image of a China can be different. You may go to USA, but the image of as a country can be different. So you have those 10, 15 countries which always, it moves around but never change. And then you have this bottom of the country which pyramid which have another 20 countries, so people don't want to do business, etc. So they are always forgotten. So it's in between that move on, and it takes long time. The latest is how the Korea emerged. I had a dinner with the Korean ambassador from one place to another. I'll give you an example. About 10 years back, you know, when you go to these, as you know, all the shanty areas in Colombo, they have a separate address. They have used the name of the country. So Korea is one of the names that they use is part of the address. Now that has, because Korea has emerged from another place, they have removed it now. Because Korea were able to, from here, for about 15, 20 years, their culture, their music, the technology, or the soft values of a country, they have emerged. And that's country branding. So because of that, tourism finds easier to market it. Because good brands, it's easier to market. Bad brands is difficult to market it, you spend more. Mediocre brands always have to spend more than the good brands. So that's a different discussion, we'll come into that. So that's basically the destination branding and the nation branding. So that's the connection between the two. But having said that, tourism will have to do their marketing in order to get it. That's called selling. In order to sell your dreams and you get people coming in. So that marketing campaign has to go. The second thing is, this is a subject of research, right? The research is basically depends on how rigorous it is. So Professor is there, he knows more than me here. So the research has to be extremely rigorous in order to have the accuracy. This is a great start, but there are other inputs, data inputs that can put in. For example, Australian tourism, which has the best research methodology in the world in tourism, they never stop the airport exit survey. They never stop. Every day they continue in all the airports. So airport exit survey is a daily thing, and based on the input they get, they basically keep on changing the dashboarding once a month. So to show these are the trends. So this is a great start. And then what Nishad mentioned, there is also what we call the industry tacit knowledge. So this tacit knowledge has to be brought in to validate some of this information. Now we saw in the research, I think someone mentioned that very important, how the wellness tourism, great point. But we don't have more than 500 rooms in the country on wellness tourism. So it's not a segment that can really go out and get people in, then you get a bad experience coming in. So we need to, while the market demand is there, it is something else. The second thing is we also not forget we call in marketing, there is something called market driven. Now this data is, we say, okay, fine, this is what market needs, so we fulfill that. But there is an element we call marketing driven. which means people don't really understand and don't know unless they experience. So you must not forget that as well. So research do not cover that most of the time. So that's innovation coming in. The other point is that there are so many other tools that can be linked in to further enhance the research. So one is the forward keys. Now the forward keys, you can click of a button, you can find out what are the forward bookings to Sri Lanka on airlines are concerned. Let's say forecasting for next month of May compared to last year. It'll tell you it's about 4% up, 7% up, etc. That really helps to the people to get it, but it has to be done on national level. So the forward keys is one. Then the PAC6. PAC6 is a system which airlines used. They can get exactly the same data. Then you have STR data, which is basically the hotel data, which you can understand in terms of the occupancies, the average ADRs on competitor sets, etc. So in national level also you can get it. So you can add those elements into it and you can make this more accuracy can be much better in terms of research and information can be much better. Then you have Australia, they take it credit card details. They can exactly tell how much of expenditure that has taken place in every city. So it's a matter of talking to some of the credit cards and adding that in. I think Honorable Deputy Minister having a meeting with Booking.com, the data that the Booking.com has, which only they give it to the national body, is amazing. They can tell you exactly what's in every region, how much, if the OTAs are having a higher segment, then it has a higher accuracy. They can exactly tell you how much of bookings taking place, how many nights, and what rates. And those data can be correlated or correlation can be established into it and then get it. So once we start getting those additional information, your data is becoming more rigorous, then the accuracy of data is becoming more important, and then this is a journey that has to go. So you can't do it in one night. And this also started after so many years, 7 years. I think we should continue this and maybe enhance the research unit of Sri Lanka tourism to get more people and maybe more budgets maybe, and then do this and create a real data dashboard, and the private sector will buy it. No need of giving anything free. And this data has to be basically marketed and published and see anyone, and you can subscribe and give it, and then people who wants to take it, buy it, and then make use of it. And so this is what I basically suggest in two questions that you asked.
Thank you, Dilip. Thank you very much for making that clarification on the destination branding versus the nation branding, and also on bringing the composite, all the other data matrices into the table and the importance of it. And I think there's also an opening for revenue generation as well in that case if we make it right. So, Minister, I think we are getting a lot of questions on my dashboard. That's the main dashboard that I have. Minister, there's a lot of questions for you. First is, what's SLDD's approach to collaborate with OTAs like Booking.com, Expedia, Agoda to gain big data on Sri Lanka as a market, which pretty much Dilip just mentioned. What's the plan? How are we going to take this up?
Yeah, as Dilip also mentioned, actually, I have had a meeting before, and also we have a schedule another meeting. They also have certain restrictions, to certain level they have promises that they will disclose critical data. We also have approached some, credit card companies also, where critical information they are also having in terms of tourism expenditure. So we are trying, and as I said, we have scheduled a meeting, and this we are gonna, finalize on an agreement as to data sharing, and with that, hopefully, we will also get some more exciting insights into what we have found in this survey. So we have continuous dialogue with OTAs, and also bringing them into a kind of monitoring mechanism. We have started a dialogue, and now SLTDA we register hotels, give them classifications, 5-star, 4-star, 3 stars, like that. So we have started discussion with particularly some of the high performing OTAs to display that this is a SLTD registered approved hotel also. So these are some of the dialogues which we are conducting right now, and we have a scheduled meeting very soon so that we can get some outcomes.
Before I move to Dinushka, another question: how will government ensure this data feeding into planning, budgeting, and what are actual next steps? To add to that, Minister, in terms of your budget spending, is there any allocation to, give more resources to the SLTDA research division? Because from what I understood, to get that OTA data, all the other data, getting data from Nishad and his stakeholder group, this is pretty much a very comprehensive, sophisticated system that we are talking about, and also continue this survey on a 365 days basis is a non-stop operation. So probably which requires a lot of resources and which is something worth spending. Is there any conversation on this? Because ultimately it may not make any sense, because if our next step is only to continue the exit survey, because it seems the market is doing something. I'm not an industry expert, but it seems the market is doing something completely different. They get like the OTA data and they do multiple mappings and all that, which we may not be able to really, get into the game even, including some, the weather patterns and things like that. So is there any indication?
Yes, Dhananath, if you closely looked at 3.5 billion allocated for tourism development, nature-based, that was actually from the SLTDA fund. SLTDA has got quite substantial funding, and inside, this is autonomous organization where we need to, we can plan our budget and the annual action plan and implement it. I believe firmly that we need to strengthen our research, analytical and international relation unit, equip them, man them, and more focus on data collection, analysis and dissemination, so that we can keep the industry up to date of what is real time.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much. Dinushka, I would like to move to you now. All this data ultimately for tourists, it has to be a story, because no one really comes on like 17% to 19%. They really don't digest that. What can be done to make it a story, and what's the best practice? And with the available resources, still, if we wait for all the stars to be aligned, it will be we will not be able to start. But what is your recommendation, or how we should move from data to a story, and what are the ingredients of that?
Thank you, Dhananath. With regards to data, and I think through media and through storytelling, we humanize a number. So while data is predominantly statistics, how do we translate that into a story, which is actually a person who's traveling can make a decision based on that? So I think while Australia Tourism also has an amazing data set that they share, I think the gold standard also that's available is for Singapore Tourism, where they have a data hub. And like Dilip mentioned, even we can do something similar on a subscription model where people have access to get the data. And from that data, they can translate that into creating stories and into creating narratives that would actually enhance and attract tourists to come to Sri Lanka. So a destination storytelling is part of the whole marketing process. And from media, we have a responsibility to definitely highlight Sri Lanka on a global platform. Our competition is high. We are extremely competitive in terms of what we offer, but how do we translate that? How do we narrate that? How do we create awareness about that? So data helps us in making our stories a reality. So we have something that we can back up our stories with. We have actual figures, but only figures is not enough. We need to actually translate that into and humanize it so that people are actually attracted to come to a destination.
Thank you, Dinushka. Thank you. Next, I would like to quickly move to Nishad. Now, in terms of tour operators, platform analytics, is there a way that actually you can capture that data, or is there a structure to begin with? And also, how you can collaborate? Because you said that like the OTAs, probably you also have a lot of data on the prices that you quoted and in terms of the preferences. Is there actually, as a stakeholder, influential stakeholder group, is there a platform that actually you collect this data and how it can be used?
Yeah, so no, we don't have an ongoing platform. We do a study. We basically get some organized, like EY kind of organization to do a study, and they would talk to all the stakeholders. They will get the numbers, and that's how they work it out. So that was interesting. I mean, this is outdated data now because this was done in 2020 based on the 2018 numbers. But if we are talking numbers, then we are at a similar stage at this moment. So at that time, around 62% of guest room nights to the formal sector hotels were given by the DMCs or the DMCs and through the foreign tour operators. Now, another thing we need to look at, which is alarming, I mean, the fact that when you take the OTAs, if you take the number of registered rooms with the SLTDA, there are about, I think, 49,000 or 48,000 or 49,000 rooms. But if you go on any platform like Booking or something, there are over nearly 95,000, which means there's almost 100% unregistered, unregulated accommodation units being sold to tourists with there's no responsibility factor, nothing. So I mean, I think one other thing, so that is also, so you can't, I mean, that again shows why the numbers have dipped and why the revenue has come down. So I think that also has to be brought in. I mean, yes, going back to the question you asked me, yeah, we do surveys we do research from time to time so that we can show the amount of the contribution from our group of stakeholders to the industry. So the one we did in 2020, and now we're doing one again this year, end of this year, which is based on the 2025 numbers, which we feel has now finally come back to some semblance of normalcy after all these issues that we had. But on the 2020 numbers, the revenues that we have generated for the government, leaving aside the TDL and leaving aside all of those taxes, we have contributed 11.5 billion just in terms of entry fees in tickets and things like that. And of that 11.5 billion, 8.1 has been contributed by Slighter members. Now again, the other factor is, now I spoke about the number of rooms. So clearly that there is, as much as there's the number of registered rooms contributing from the formal sector, paying taxes, paying TDL to the government and all that, there is an equal number that is not. Professor said about the massive fund that they have. Yes, there is a huge fund, but that is all TDL collection. That is all contributions only from the formal sector, right? And according to the current act, 72% of that should be spent on foreign promotions. Unfortunately, that is what we are complaining is not being done. It's not that we don't have the money, we have the money. And tourism, I think I'm right when I say tourism is one industry that does not depend a cent from the treasury or the consolidated fund to run the tourism apparatus of the government. There are 4 institutions, everything is run from the contribution that comes through TDL and from that fund. If I'm wrong, please correct me, Professor. But this is what I have seen over the years. And so I think it's important to focus on the formal sector. And what the data has shown today is that the formal sector is not being, I mean, it's the informal sector that is thriving. And that is because of the marketing related activity that is, or the lack of it in the past so many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishad. Next, I think there are a lot of questions which are also not related to the data, but also with the common challenges with the industry. I will entertain a few of these with the best interest of time. Dilip, I think there's a question on will the recent extension of operating hours for women in hospitality help increase representation of women in the sector? Since it was mentioned even at the presentation, I know there was another survey has been done on what stops women getting to the tourism sector, because as we all know, we have an aging population and there are labor shortages in the market. So I thought, since we also have a very low female labor force participation, this may be an interesting question. Since you also represent industry, you have a first-hand experience. Has it helped, or what is the context now?
Actually, it gives a legality to have the services of the female cadres in the hotels. Earlier it was illegal, so it's becoming a lot of people who are in the governance structure who are following the legality or the law of the country. It's become really helpful. And then not that actually they're going to work late night shifts, but that has brought a lot of flexibility to the hotels. And it's a great move and it's much needed. But the problem of lesser participation of women in tourism may not be addressed because of that. You need employer branding. You need aspirational branding coming in. And also you need to ensure that we actually pay higher amounts for such employees. So that can be done once you increase your ADRs. And ADRs to increase, we need to position the country properly. And we need to get the right type of people, because the purpose of tourism is foreign exchange journey, number one. So that needs to achieve. And then I think if that comes in, there will be more people, I guess, who will join. But at the moment, we can't be satisfied with the number of women participation in the tourism sector, even hospitality and otherwise.
Also, Dilip, following up on the same answer, I don't try to challenge the survey results or anything, but since you also process a lot of data internally within your chain, does it, in terms of spending data, does it really reflect the spending patterns, especially in terms of room rates, and also the other expenditure that tourists would do within your premises? It could be for restaurants or laundry, or could be shopping within the same mall. What is the sense, or like which direction that we have to think about in that case?
I think what is significant is that the research, if I'm not mistaken, talks about $145. So that is a sort of a decline from the current status, which was done, I think, some time back. So that needs to be addressed. And this research has coming from certain methodologies, so we need to accept it. Our personal emotions and tacit knowledge can't be added into it, because there has some method into the whole research. But what I suggest is to double check with this. There are multiple data points that can be checked. We know how much TDL collection, 1% into 100%. We know what Nishad mentioned about the number of rooms. We know the ADRs, and see whether to see if $145 in one person per day into 2 is almost $300. So if, according to the research, 35% is going for accommodation, then you're looking at about easily $90, $100 in ADR. So 60% our room category are below 3-star. So those are points that needs to be, we can't resolve that, but it gives you at least a base. So from there, we need to further go into and check whether these things are coming in, and also there's a lot of leakage also happening. So when you say package price, they must be referring, I'm not sure whether it's clarified, it must be referring to the price that they paid in other country. So which means 40% is out, that stays there. So here comes, so those points needs to clarify. I think this is given the base, but it's a very sensitive information. So the most important information to find out through some rigorous process, what is the average expenditure of per day in tourists and how long they stay. But having said that, then because of the nature of tourism, I don't think many countries also have addressed this. The other countries have the similar problem, because this whole informal, formal sector is not only Sri Lanka. You have Thailand, Malaysia, all Asian countries, South Asian countries have this issue as well. So it's not a new thing that we only face. But I think if the journey has started, I'm sure you will get more robust data coming out on this area.
Thank you. Nisha, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the number that I mentioned, which is 180 to maybe 240, 250 a day, is not based on the selling price overseas, but it's based on what we quote. So that's basically that is what it. It's definitely not that, so the 40% doesn't need to be taken out.
Got it. Thank you. Minister, there are a few questions for you. There's one question asking whether Sri Lanka have resources or the capacity and infrastructure to accommodate 3 million tourists. Is this on the government's radar? That's number one. Also, I will add, where does the SLTPB, that's I think the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau, stand when it comes to digital marketing? Clearly, the stats show that Sri Lanka attracts more women and those between 25 to 29. Apart from trade fairs, shouldn't SLTPB focus more on digital marketing? I'm not sure actually whether you are in a position to answer, but since we really do not have anyone in the panel on the SLT. First one was whether we have the infrastructure to attract 3 million tourists is the first question, and whether the government is aware of the challenges.
Yeah. Yes, for 3 million, definitely yes. The question is actually when they come. That is where the issue is. Now, even we can accommodate more than 3 million with existing, for example, now, we have the problem of the capacity at the airport. But it is not the same during the off-peak. So that is where we need to address through the promotion, marketing, pricing, focusing on markets and positioning and those things should be, managed to control it. So for 3 million, we have. And Nishada also mentioned, we have actually 53,000 plus registered hotel rooms of different categories. And if you check with an OTA, it goes beyond 95,000. So we have that many. And that into 365. So we have. Yeah. And coming back to the second part, that is the digital. In fact, yes, we are, now there is this long delayed promotion campaign that is going to be actually a digital campaign, which we, are going to operate on the selected top performing markets around the globe, a digital campaign. There will be a component of it, which of course, Dilip is also a part of it, designing the campaign these days we are working on. So there is the digital marketing component of the upcoming promotion campaign.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, please.
Yes, I believe the Tourist Hotels Association has also launched a digital marketing campaign, and they are targeting some of the more potential markets instead of the mainstream markets. So there is a digital marketing campaign even at the moment going on.
Got it. So, Dinushka, stemming from there, now we are looking at a national level campaign. I think probably because of the delays, now the industry maybe have also stepped in and starting their own marketing, and generally the OTAs are also one big way of basically getting the message across. So how does it happen in other countries? Like, I'm just wondering whether are we missing out on our entire institutional structure of tourism, whether for some reason we have the Tourism Development Authority, Tourism Promotion Bureau, and there are other stakeholder groups. Is it probably there was a conversation about how Australia did it. They have like a solid think tank, pretty much crunching the numbers, collecting the data, sophisticated systems. Given we have given a lot of weightage on tourism because we know this industry is very sensitive. If something happens, probably the entire economy will collapse. It's that sensitive. So we have to take it very seriously, and we went through what happened when with COVID and Easter attack. So no doubts, this is very sensitive. We are talking about a very sensitive industry. But in your experience, do you sense whether the institutional structure has to be realigned, or whether it is, of course, this is not about the conversation about completely revamping it, but when it comes to data and all that, I'm still not sure whether we got it right as at now. It's a good start because from what I hear from Nishad, they run basically like they get the consultancies from companies like Deloitte or EY to basically run it. So that composite data may not be helpful probably to Dilip to run the campaign, because I think the dynamics are changing drastically. How do you want to weigh here with your global experience?
So basically, it's multifaceted. It cannot work with one. So while this survey is a great platform to start, I think it's important that the Hotels Association and SLITO also have a methodology in place for collecting data. And like Dilip said, it's not a one-off thing where you do a 12-month survey and then we go off this number for the next 7 years, where we go off $148, but we have it ongoing. Again, it's a cost involvement, it is not cheap, and hopefully with international donor support, we might be able to get even a pilot
platform in place where we have a way of aggregating the data from the Hotels Association and the inbound tour operators and OTAs, of course, and it's all brought together. So other destinations have multiple, of course, their budgets are much larger and they have multiple ways of doing it, but solely putting the onus on a destination marketing campaign probably isn't the right way to go. There are multiple things that you need to do along with that. So one step at a time, I think the survey is great, but also there has to be a continuous way that data is available to people, especially for people overseas, even in a message that we carry. It's always good to translate that number into something that's tangible. So whether we say X number of people or whatever we say, there has to be a way that we can make that more authentic, and the people who actually put that information out, other than numbers, like insights, are critical. So analytics from data collected is also very important. So I think we need to get professional organizations on board that can analyze the data and actually push it out to the general public.
Thank you. Dilip, with that I'll come to you, since the Minister mentioned about the campaign. Now, how this data has been feeding to the campaign, number one. And also I feel tourism is also like cricket. On cricket, everyone has an opinion. So they said, like, you know, this player could have been in the team. He could have been at the, you know, out of the squad, and that catch could have been taken. They could have hit a six, or everyone has an opinion. Same, I think, for tourism. Everyone says, okay, we could have moved to sustainable tourism. We could have moved to, of course, all are valid because you give an opinion with your experience. But ultimately, it should also be data-driven, no? Because you should know where the resources and things coming from. So with your experience and with the data available as at now, how it has been fed to the campaign, and do you want to indicate where it is, or where, I mean, the industry can look forward to where the campaign will break, or do you want to touch, or you want to, as in cricket terms, you can leave that delivery as well?
No, I think first thing is I'm not, we are from the advisory committee, you know, we are basically assisting the Honorable Deputy Minister and the Minister and the team. I think the campaign is purely and solely is to an affair for the SLTPB, which the private sector is the board of management, and then we are just giving an input. So implementation and execution, we don't have any responsibility on us, but we'll more than willing to help and take it off the ground. So in the absence of, it's very important that it's easy to talk about and say, okay, where's the campaign, all that. But then somebody will have to sit down and answer, what is this campaign? How much is it going to cost you? What is an ROI on this? Where do you have this campaign? When are you going to have it? And what markets you're going to do this? And how do you measure the success of this? What are the risk factors of the campaign? What resources do you need for this? Those are questions that needs to be answered and put into a table and then agree, and that's what we are doing now, and getting resources together. The second thing is in terms of the data, so before we launch the campaign, you need the marketing strategy, right? What is a campaign strategy? So in order to define the campaign strategy, obviously, you will have to take what we call primary and secondary data to understand. So which market do you go? How much you have to spend? And then what are the segments you're going to look at it? So basically to understand your basic principle of your segmentation, targeting and positioning needs to be addressed and agree upon before we launch anything. So I believe it's going to be part and parcel of the campaign. You can't just get up tomorrow and say, okay, I'll spend $2 million. I'm sure it's public money, so everyone is answerable into it. So it has to go through some process, but it's not easy. A lot of things, it's not that the Minister and the Honorable Deputy Minister are not talking every day. We talked about it, how to get it, and there are a lot of bureaucracy within the process, and that needs to be cut across, and it's not, when you sit at the meeting, you will really feel it, and somebody who's put in the signature end of the day will have to feel whether I'll have to be ended up in that, with that jumper in some case for offences which haven't. So it's a mindset of the public office also, you need to reality and to understand. So the data, yes, it has to be taken in, then only, and everyone has to get involved. The private sector will have to get involved, and today the Promotion Bureau, the majority of the members are from the private sector. So everything has to go through the SLTPB because they are the custodian of the funds, and with the approval. So with that, I think I'm sure the industry will have a good say in understanding on answering some of these questions. We all support.
Thank you, Dilip. I think one thing can be assured, like cricket, that whatever the campaign, there will be some level of criticism and comments, like in cricket, even when you win or lose, that there'll be someone says that player could have done well and you kept him out of the squad, coach could have been changed. So I think the similar case can be there, but I think, but thank you, Dilip, for bringing that up, because you bring the challenges and how the process goes on. Minister, there's another question on this free tourist visa. When will free visa proposal for 47 countries be implemented? It was approved in 2024 August. Now we are in 2025 November. Is there a delay? I think there's a question for you on that.
Yes, actually, we wanted this to be implemented as soon as we came in office. Well, we have done our part, actually, cabinet approval and all such, everything. Now, where there is a court case, we all know about the previous, outsourcing this visa rights to a different company, and it's in the court. So that is where this is, right now. So once that is cleared, we can implement. Having said that, right now, I think we are full in the season. So maybe off season, we can, clear whatever the, these legal barriers that we have, clearances, and then we can go for.
Nishad, for the best interest of time, I think we have about last 5 minutes for any questions, and we can wrap up. Any final thoughts from you, Nishad, mainly representing Slido? Any proposals that you think actually can accelerate also on the data front, because today the focus is on data and how to take it forward, and also our theme is from data to decision making.
Yes, I agree that data is very important, but as Dinushka very correctly said, there are different ways of getting this data, and you use it, you analyze it, you use it in different ways for whatever purpose you need. So that is the reason why even independently, even it is expensive, but then we believe in investing that money and can't do it ongoing unless there is some support from somewhere. But Slido on its own, we have tried to do it, at least now we did it 5 years ago, we're trying to do it again now. Because actually, I was just looking at the 2018 numbers. Slido members alone, we only have about 200 members. We have spent something like 1.53 billion for tourism promotion. That has nothing to do with the TDL fund or anything. That is just from the organizations in 2018. So you saw the results. That was the this thing, and the per day spend at that time. So this is what I'm saying. I mean, use the data. Look at both sides of it, right? Yes, fantastic. Numbers have gone up. The number of heads have increased. But what has happened to the revenue? Clearly, it has dropped. Yes, your OTAs are generating much more than at that time, which was some 20-odd%. Now it's generating 40-something%. But are they generating in the right places? Is the government actually getting the revenues that they can, the potential is there for them to get out of this which they would get if these 50 or 100 or 50% of the number of rooms are also brought into the sector and registered, and they also pay the regulated taxes and TDLs and whatever. So I think that is also one side to look at very, very critically and analyze and see how to get into that, because numbers are great, but we have to use the data in different ways. And again, just to close, marketing is key, and if it's not done, then you can see the result.
Got it. Before I give the final remarks, any questions that the panelists have to ask from each other? Minister, because everyone is asking, don't ask questions from me, but if you have any questions from each other to clarify, maybe I can give you a few minutes. But otherwise, I would like to conclude by allowing the panelists to make their final remarks. Any questions? All right. Okay, Dinushka, you want to wrap up? What are the final thoughts? What should be the next step? And what's the take-home message for the audience?
Finally, I would like to say is that it's such a
breath of fresh air that we have this research, this data with us now, and I think that we should use it to the best of our ability to incorporate it into all our promotional work. From a media perspective, I think the way forward is where there is a lot more public sector, private sector collaboration in data collation and also dissemination. So when it comes to collecting data, that's one exercise. When it comes to sending it out there, I understand there's sensitivity around data. Hotels have to maintain a certain amount of privacy when it's their data. Tour operators have the same thing. But there has to be a way that some information is translated and sent out to SLTDA, and together the SLTDA can maybe be the home or the hub for this data where people like us have access to it, and that we can actually go in there, and that our messaging can be more targeted, can be more specific, whether it is not just destination promotion to attract tourism, but also investment. Because from the media point, of course, we attract not only tourists, but also investment. And part of our promotion is also to attract investment. So I think that this is a great first step, and I think the way forward is to do a lot more collaborative work to enhance Sri Lanka as one of the best destinations in the world.
Thank you, Dinshal. Dilip, any final thoughts from you?
I think it's a right step, correct step in the right direction. I think we should really enhance on it and try and see whether we can benchmark something like Australia Tourism Data Warehouse and achieve that status early as possible, so that we actually build this data. And tourism board had that reputation long ago, like had the best data system. And then over the years, it has a lot of things have evolved. So if you can achieve that with the next couple of years with the support of all the other agencies, I think that will have a lot of relief for the investors as well.
Thank you. Minister, final thoughts? There are so many questions coming, but I thought to give you some rest. But you can get the final message, and it's an interesting step. And on a personal capacity, I also commend the effort done by the SLTDA, especially on revising the numbers and, you know, at least whether giving a right, at least getting the realistic picture. So at least we know where we are heading towards. But I'm sure you have a lot of plans. You are still 1 year. There's a long way to go. Your final thoughts, Honorable Minister.
Yes, I would like to note actually what Chairman in his opening remarks, he mentioned that, you know, if we are to get the the advantage politically, we could have simply manipulated the data and hide this 148 and go with 171 or 181. We are not that. We need to be realistic and driven by the real indicators, what is happening in the market. So I think we have got a very good insight through this comprehensive data collection, so that we will further dig down into, the analysis, as she also mentioned. And even we can, reshape or rethink about our aviation strategy, where we, our national carrier is placed, where we are negotiating for, the scheduled airline. So all these things will be the future with these insights. So while we are focusing these findings, but further, as Dilip also mentioned, we will further strengthen our research and international relations unit and invest on that, so that we will have a very strong data house to run and manage the industry towards evolving trends.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. As we all know, it's a brand that is closer to our heart. It's like cricket, because we all have an opinion on cricket, because we all love that brand. So it's very difficult to deal with a brand that you love, because there are so many opinions and interest on it. So as a result, sometimes you also get sometimes disheartened or upset when the decision is not the way that you are thinking. But we all have to understand it's an excellent product that we have. Regardless of what is the tagline of the campaign, still people love it. As a gentleman pointed out, we have 18% repeat visitors. It could have been better, but still about 45% to 50% has said that they would like to pay a repeat visit. So with all those challenges and hope, we are going to wrap up the panel discussion. And thank you very much for our all esteemed panelists for their insights, and the audience for the questions. And I hope the media will cover the story, not as like the tourism earnings have dropped or the, the spending has dropped down. It's a survey methodology has changed and the survey has revised. Context have changed. And we wish all the very best to SLTDA. And what we ultimately want is to product and the country to succeed. And with that, we are wrapping up our conversation and crossing over back to our MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our esteemed panelists for that engaging and forward-looking discussion. To close today's event, may I invite Ms. Mariam Piracha, Country Director of MDF Sri Lanka, to share her reflections on the partnership between MDF and SLTDA, and to show how data-driven collaboration continues to shape Sri Lanka's tourism future.
All right, standing between you and a well-deserved lunch is always a risky business, so I promise to keep this short. If I fail, the lunch will make up for it. First of all, let me extend my sincere gratitude to Honorable Professor Ruvan Ranasinghe, Deputy Tourism Minister, and His Excellency Mr. Matthew Duckworth, Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, for their leadership and their commitment and their time today. A special thanks to Mr. Boudica Hevawasam, Chairman SLTDA, and the entire SLTDA research team for their commitment, their vision towards improving, refining research data, but also the use of data in Sri Lanka's tourism sector. I would then like to extend my thanks to our distinguished panelists for the day, Mr. Dilip, Mr. Nishad, Ms. Tanushka, and of course, Professor Ruvan, again, for sharing your insights and really giving your reflections from what this data means, but also how does it cross over with the practicalities of the tourism industry from what they know. And of course, Mr. Tananand Fernando, thank you so much for steering a vibrant discussion and making sure we don't need that second cup of coffee today. Australia's MDF has chosen to work on strengthening data systems because we really believe that better data means better planning, better investments, and better decisions. In tourism, guessing is great for adventure, but not so much for strategy. The strong turnout today from the industry speaks volumes about the sector's commitment towards really understanding and improving decision-based planning. Your presence here really reflects a shared belief that data is not just numbers, but it's a strategic asset, and this discussion today really encourages all to think about what the data shows, but also I think that discussion just now has been quite critical about what the data perhaps doesn't show, and it gives us good feedback to take back and an opportunity to keep working on this. The insights shared today are a starting point for smarter, more competitive strategies that position Sri Lanka as a leading destination. However, insight without actions remain just numbers. I really hope that we can use these insights to drive smarter decisions and more tangible results. Australia's Market Development Facility is pleased to have been working with industry leaders such as yourselves across the private sector and the public sector in sustainable tourism. Our work that focuses on improving product development, marketing, improving data, and also creating opportunities for women across these different market segments is a very key focus area, and I'm pleased that today, as the Australian High Commissioner mentioned earlier, Australia is pleased to extend further support to the tourism sector by really looking at where these opportunities are and what further support may be needed. I'd really like to take this moment also today to just invite the industry as well as the government and the businesses that are here today to really spend that time speaking with the MDF team. You know, we really value the relationships that have been developed, and it's really with the business partners such as yourselves that we can really find commercial relevance and opportunities where we're getting strong commitment with the industry. So I really invite the business partners today to speak to the team and really to continue this conversation going forward. Finally, really thank you all. It's been a long first half. It looks quite rainy and dangerous out there, so I'm glad that you all were able to make it to this workshop today and shared your commitment, your time with all of us, and I really look forward to continuing this discussion over lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mariam Piracha. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes From Data to Decisions. On behalf of MDF and SLTDA, thank you for joining us and for being part of this important dialogue on the role of data and building a more competitive and sustainable tourism industry. We invite you all to join us for lunch on the 5th floor at the Ahara restaurant to continue having this conversation. So for now, we hope you all have a wonderful afternoon and thank you for being here.
Sri Lanka's future is increasingly being shaped by bold ideas, innovation and resilience. Australia's Market Development Facility, MDF, is a catalyst for this change. MDF supports government and business partners to identify markets that have high potential to grow, be profitable, and deliver social and environmental value. In Sri Lanka, MDF does this in the agriculture, coffee, and sustainable tourism sectors.
In Sri Lanka, MDF works like a social venture fund. If we see the social and environmental benefit, we always co-invest. We only work where partners are willing to share the risk with us and doing things differently to grow their company.
In agriculture, MDF works with its partners to boost productivity, enhance food security, and increase incomes for rural communities. Our partners in this sector range from some of Sri Lanka's largest businesses to medium and small-scale businesses working in niche domestic and export markets.
MDF ආයතනයෙන් දුන්න සහන දේවල් අපි ගොවීන්ට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමෙන් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ගෙවතු වගා මේ සංකල්පය ඇත්තටම හොඳ මට්ටමකට අරන් යන්න අවස්ථාව අපිට උදා වුණා. ඒ මගින් කාන්තාවන්ගේ ආදායම තත්ත්වය ඉහළ ගියා. ඒ වගේම ගෙදර කෑම බීම ටික තමන්ගේ ගෙවත්තෙන් ලබා ගන්න අවස්ථාව උදා වුණා.
මම කාන්තාවන්ට ප්‍රදේශන මාලාවක් කරා. ඉතින් ඒකට ඇත්තටම MDF ආයතනය ලොකු සහායක් දුන්නා අපිට ඒගොල්ලන්ව එකතු කරගන්නකොට යන වියදම ගමන් ගාස්තු පවා මට යන සෑහෙන වියදමක් ඒගොල්ලෝ සැපෙව්වා. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් මට පුළුවන්කම ලැබුණා ලංකාව පුරාම ඉන්න කාන්තාවන්ට සපෝට් එකක් දෙන්න.
Specialty coffee is an emerging sector in Sri Lanka. It is predominantly grown in Sri Lanka's central highlands by smallholder farmers, mainly women. MDF is working with coffee growers, processors, roasters, and exporters to invest in increasing coffee volumes and quality. Our aim is to position Sri Lankan specialty coffee in the global coffee market.
MDF එක පටන් ගත්ත දවසේ ඉඳලා මට දිනෙන් දින එයාලගෙන් ලොකු ඇඩ්වයිස් එකක් කරනවා. එයාලට ඕනකම තිබ්බ ලංකාවේ කෝපි ලෝක වෙළඳපොළට යවන්න. ඒකත් අර නිකන් කෝපි එකක් යවනවා නෙවෙයි ස්පෙෂලිටි කොෆි පැත්තට බර වෙලා ලංකා කොෆි ඇසෝසියේෂන් එකක් අපි එකතු වෙලා හැදුවා. ලංකාවේ ෆාමර් ලොකු නෙට්වර්ක් එකක් හැදුවා. ෆාමර්ස්ලාට ලීෆ්ලට් එකේ දෙන ඉඳලා ට්‍රේනින් මෙටීරියල් ටික මට MDF එකෙන් හම්බ වෙනවා.
ඇත්තටම කෝපි අපි පටන් ගන්නකොට අපි නොලෙජ් එක අපේ 0. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම දැන් අපි ඒක ඉම්ප්‍රූව් කරගෙන තියෙනවා ගොඩාක් දුරට NDF එක හරහා.
Tourism is Sri Lanka's third largest source of foreign exchange and employs nearly 300,000 people. MDF works with industry leaders, hotels, providers in tourism services and operators to support the industry's transition to a more sustainable, responsible and inclusive industry.
MDF is one of the first connections we made to support our communications programs, and they stepped forward very willingly, and we came out with a very effective document that outlines the steps we would take in the future, and that is our Bible, that's our roadmap as we go forward. But it's been a very productive and helpful partnership.
I'm quite confident that this GCC market, as MDF and us together, can promote so much. We are the Ayurvedic leading company. So I feel both MDF and Siddhalepa together, within 2-3 years' time, we can change Sri Lanka into an Ayurvedic destination.
We support our business partners to identify commercial opportunities to engage more women or improve the engagement of women as employees, suppliers, or customers. MDF also supports its partners to evaluate the costs and benefits of climate-smart investments. With our diverse range of partners, MDF is co-creating solutions that turn opportunity into action and growth. To learn more about how we support our partners or to explore working with us, reach out to us or follow us on social media.